Here is the English version. What do dogs see in their dreams? Brainwaves and memories. During sleep. You've seen it happen. Your dog is asleep on the couch, perfectly still, and then something shifts. The paws start moving. Not dramatically, but rhythmically, like they're running somewhere slow. The nose twitches. A muffled sound escapes, somewhere between a whimper and a bark. And then, just as quickly as it started, it stops. The dog exhales, adjusts, and goes still again. Most people smile at this and think he's chasing something in his dreams. Then they move on. And when researchers started pointing electrodes at sleeping dogs and watching what their neurons were doing, what they found didn't just confirm that dogs dream. It revealed what they dream about, why they dream, and what that says about the depth of memory and emotion that exists inside an animal. Most people still underestimate. The architecture of a sleeping brain. To understand what a dog experiences during sleep, you have to start with the structure of sleep itself. In the 1950s, researchers studying human sleep discovered that the night is not a single uniform state. It cycles. The brain moves through distinct phases, each with its own electrical signature, its own biochemistry, and its own function. For a long time, the assumption was that this architecture was uniquely human, or at best, uniquely mammalian in a limited sense. That assumption did not survive contact with the data. In 1977, researchers Jouvet and Delorme had already demonstrated REM sleep in cats, showing the same cortical activation patterns seen in humans. But the landmark moment for dogs came from a series of studies that used polysomnography, the same multi-channel brain monitoring used in human sleep labs, on dogs of various breeds and sizes. What they found was unambiguous. Dogs cycle through the same sleep stages as humans. Slow wave sleep, where the brain produces large, rolling electrical waves. And REM, where those waves flatten into something fast, chaotic, and eerily awake-looking. The cycles are shorter than ours. A dog moves through a complete sleep cycle in roughly 20 minutes, compared to approximately 90 minutes in humans. But the phases themselves, the electrical signatures, the body paralysis, the eye movements, are structurally identical. The sleeping dog brain is not doing something simpler than the sleeping human brain. It is doing the same thing, faster. What MIT found in the rat's hippocampus. Specific sequences of neurons fired in specific orders as the rat navigated particular sections of the track. Then they let the rats sleep and kept recording. During REM sleep, the same sequences of neurons fired again, in the same order, at the same relative timing. The hippocampus was replaying the maze, not randomly, not in fragments, but as a coherent, structured replay of the day's experience. The rat's brain was, by any reasonable definition, revisiting what had happened while it was awake. Wilson was careful in his language, as scientists tend to be. But in interviews, he was direct about the implication. The rats were dreaming about running the maze. The hippocampus in dogs is structurally and functionally homologous to the hippocampus in rats and humans. It serves the same purpose, encoding episodic experience and replaying it during sleep for consolidation. There is no neurological reason to believe the process stops at dogs. Every current model of mammalian memory consolidation would predict the same hippocampal replay occurring in a sleeping dog's brain. Second, puppies and older dogs dream more than dogs in their prime. Coren's interpretation, consistent with what's known about memory consolidation in developing and aging brains, is that both groups have more material to process. Puppies are absorbing an overwhelming quantity of new information every day. With a large breed, you may need to be patient, but the process is the same in both. Dogs that are active chasers twitch and run. Dogs that are highly social may vocalize. The body appears to be enacting something congruent with the dog's waking life. Exactly what you'd expect if hippocampal replay is the mechanism. There's a reason your dog doesn't actually sprint across the bedroom during a dream, and the reason is a small structure in the brainstem called the pons. During REM sleep, the pons generate signals that actively suppress motor neurons throughout the body, creating the paralysis state called atonia. The brain can generate the full neural signal to run, and the body does not move. Only the extremities, the paws, the face, the tail occasionally break through with minor twitching, which is why you see paw movements, but not full locomotion. In humans, this system can fail, producing a condition called REM sleep behavior disorder, where people physically act out their dreams, sometimes violently. The same disorder has been documented in dogs. A 2008 case series published in the Journal of Veterinary Internal Medicine described dogs that were lunging, running, and vocalizing dramatically during sleep in ways that were clearly not normal twitching. In some of these animals, examination revealed the pons suppression system was failing. The behavior wasn't a behavioral problem, it was a neurological one, which processes fear, pleasure, and threat, is active during REM sleep. It doesn't go offline while the hippocampus replays the day. It participates. This means that if a dog spent the afternoon doing something it found deeply rewarding, chasing a ball, playing with a familiar person, exploring a new trail, the replay during sleep isn't emotionally neutral. The same circuits that generated the positive experience during waking are partially reactivated during the replay. The dog is not just watching a memory like a film, it is re-experiencing something of the emotional texture of it. The reverse is also true, and it has significant implications for dogs that live in stressful conditions. A dog that experienced something frightening or aversive during the day is likely replaying that experience emotionally during sleep as well. The twitching and whimpering you see may not always be a happy dream. Research on PTSD in both humans and animals has found that traumatic memories are replayed more persistently and with greater emotional intensity during REM sleep than neutral memories, a pattern thought to be related to the brain's attempt to process and contextualize threatening experiences. Military and service dogs that have been exposed to combat or high-stress working conditions show elevated rates of disturbed sleep and behavior consistent with nightmare-like episodes. Dogs are fundamentally social animals whose daily emotional lives revolve around a small number of things: their owners, their environment, other animals, food, movement, and play. The hippocampus encodes episodic experiences, so the raw material for dreams is the day's actual events. A dog that spent the morning on a walk is likely replaying the walk. A dog that played with another dog at the park is likely replaying elements of that interaction. A dog that spent most of the day alone in a quiet house has less novel material to encode, and some research on environmental enrichment suggests that cognitively stimulating days produce more active REM behavior, consistent with more vivid hippocampal replay. One particularly interesting implication involves the research on scent. As discussed in studies on olfactory memory in dogs, smell is the dog's primary sense, and the one most deeply tied to memory and emotion. The human olfactory system encodes scent memories with unusual resistance to fading, partly because of the direct anatomical connection between the olfactory bulb and the hippocampus. In dogs with 300 million olfactory receptors compared to our 6 million, this connection is even more pronounced. It is reasonable to expect that olfactory memories, the smell of a familiar person, a particular place, another animal, are among the most richly encoded and most vividly replayed during sleep. Your dog may be dreaming of your smell before it dreams of your face. Why sleep matters? More than you think. The reason the brain replays experiences during sleep is not passive. It is doing something active and important. Memory consolidation is the process by which short-term memories are transferred into stable, long-term storage. It requires sleep. Studies in humans consistently show that skills learned during the day improve significantly after a night of sleep, even without additional practice. The same effect has been demonstrated in dogs. A 2017 study published in Scientific Reports by researchers at the Department of Ethology at Eötvös Loránd University in Budapest tested dogs on a series of commands and then allowed one group to sleep while another remained awake. The dogs that slept after the training session showed significantly better retention when tested afterward. The effect was specifically associated with sleep following learning, not just the passage of time. What this tells you is practical. When you teach your dog something new, the lesson is not fully processed the moment the training session ends. It is being consolidated during sleep. The hours after a training session, including the sleep that follows, are not downtime. They are when the learning is actually being written into long-term memory. A dog that is prevented from sleeping adequately after learning is a dog that will retain less of what it learned. It also tells you something about what enrichment means neurologically. A dog that has a cognitively and physically rich day is a dog whose brain has more material to consolidate and more replay to do. The tired dog that falls into deep, active-looking sleep after a stimulating day is not just recovering physically. Its brain is doing maintenance, organizing the day's experiences into structured memory. The dog that shouldn't be woken. Almost every dog owner has been in this moment. The dog is clearly in the middle of something vivid, twitching, making sounds, and the instinct is to reach over and gently shake it awake because it looks distressed. The old saying is that you shouldn't wake a sleeping dog, and the neuroscience gives that saying a more specific foundation than its origins probably intended. Abrupt awakening from REM sleep is disorienting in any mammal. In humans, it produces the characteristic confusion of being jolted from a dream mid-sequence. In dogs, there is an additional risk that is well documented by veterinary behaviorists. A dog awakens suddenly from deep sleep, particularly from an intense dream state, may bite. It is responding to whatever its nervous system was processing a moment ago, not to the person in front of it. This is especially relevant with children, who are statistically more likely to approach a sleeping dog and touch it abruptly. The recommendation from veterinary behaviorists is consistent. If you need to wake a sleeping dog, do it with your voice from a distance rather than with touch. Call the dog's name softly, give it a moment to surface, and let it transition on its own terms. There is a final detail in the research that is worth sitting with. Gregory Burns's fMRI work at Emory University, which used trained dogs in brain scanners to study neural responses to scent, found that the scent of a familiar owner produced the strongest activation in the caudate nucleus, the brain's reward center, of any stimulus tested. Stronger than food, stronger than other dogs. That neural signature, that strong reward circuit response to the owner's presence, is encoded in the hippocampus as a memory with strong, positive emotional valence. It is, by every principle of how hippocampal replay works during REM sleep, exactly the kind of experience the brain preferentially consolidates and revisits. The dog on the couch, paws moving, is not just running somewhere in its mind. Somewhere it felt safe and stimulated and alive. And the most neurologically honest version of that somewhere is a place that includes you. If this made you think differently about your dog's inner life, the next video goes somewhere just as unexpected. The science behind what dogs understand about human emotions is far more specific than most people realize, and the research behind it will change how you read your dog's face.